we'd ask them to come in and do a study and issue a report. And so you continue to do the organizing you're doing. You pull in some, I call them research and policy partners. And I would also try to identify a legal partner and look for opportunities to file lawsuits. On the third track, which is the politics, understanding that you don't have the ballot measure option, it makes your candidate even more important. So candidate questionnaires, candidate questions at every public event, what's your position on the new jail? Bird dogging these folks everywhere they go. And, and how are you going to pay for that jail over time? So maybe they've identified how they're going to build it, but what about those long-term costs? If you can look at any jail in the country and see how those costs balloon over time. So I really think that you're already there with this group, pulling folks together, that this is how we started a decade ago. And then, it's about that commitment to stay in for the long haul.
Okay, let's give it up for Lynn one more time.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to continue to move on. We're in the area now considered the moral imperative. And in this area, we're going to introduce to you Audrey Davis, formerly with the Faith in Indiana organizer, to take us a little further in our conversation.
Okay, and Kimberly, I'm going to use my exit out of the meeting, so if you want to turn on your, you can turn on your
many thanks.
Audio if she wants to stay on.
Can we get one more round of applause for
here, so just let her stay on if she wants to stay on. Okay, so thank you guys so much for your patience today. I just want us to maybe take a second and look at each other if we can.
Hi. Hello. Hi.
Oh. This is what it starts with. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of intimidated at this moment. It sounds like our kids and even maybe our grandkids will be facing some form of this fight here in Allen County. And it's really quite overwhelming to think of all the things that are going to come down our path if it echoes anything that LA went through. I guess I just want to create some space for reflections around power. Okay? There will be different threads of this fight. There will be the things that only the current county council members that side with us can do. There will be things that only the city council, 4 out of 5, that likely will entertain, care, not incarceration, will do. And then there's things that the community will have to do. And in this in this conversation, the people who have begun this conversation, change makers, some faith leaders, those of us who are part of the Poor People's Campaign, our predisposition is towards building relational power. Meaning, the only way that institutional power changes is through moving people, money, and ideas. Today we've started that. And like she said, that's the beginning. I mean, that's a beautiful sense of hope, especially in facing this huge Goliath that's in front of us. So I just have to smile and remember that. There's always going to be beauty in this fight. There's always going to be beauty in the struggle. And like the Jewish people here, like Rabbi who came with us, one of the things I've learned from their tradition is that life and the world is always the desert, right? It's always as though we are in exile. And we have to become a people that walk towards the promised land every day and get others to walk with us. So what I want to give some reflection space before one of our powerful organizers or both of them from Changemakers begins to talk with us about the ideas that we've come up with as a group about what our next steps can be. And just hear from you all around what you learned from Lynn and what were the areas where you felt power was at work. Okay? Any reflections?
No.
Yes, go ahead. Stand up, say your name real quick, and then make your reflection pretty brief.
Hi,
if you don't
my
mind.
name is Christian Wolf, and one of the last things that the speaker said just in constructing sentences and speaking casually as we normally do, she made a reference to the new jail. I would encourage people to reconsider how they refer to it, because there is no new jail.
Right.
But we speak about it as if there is, and I think that kind of empowers that idea. It brings it to life.
Yeah.
So when we ask our candidates for political office about this, we don't ask them about what they think about the new jail.
Mm-hmm.
We ask them what they think about this new jail proposition.
Or actually, I like what you're saying. I think we could even go bolder than that. I think we could say, you know, tell us more about this plan for increasing captivity in our county. Right? I mean, a lot of us are people of faith. Like, we believe that we are supposed to shrug off chains and shackles in our life and help the world do the same. So tell us about your plans to increase incarceration in Allen County.
Right.
Tell us about how you're calculating on creating more beds for despair instead of investing in life, right?
Right.
You're exactly right, because the more that we use their narrative, the more they win. Yes?
I have something. I'm Steve Kane. I'm just a person that's been a part of a little bit of Faith in Indiana. But the thing that got me out of her talk was the ballooning costs factor, that as soon as you build a new jail, you've got a whole new set of money from all of us. And I do know that we all want to do the best by the people, but if we can show cost effectiveness, if we can show recidivism being reduced through more humane means, if we can show that we're doing mental health care, we can win this battle, because we can show the practicality. And I would like to throw something else out, that we need to ask these people that are in power, well, what about the jail malpractice? Because we have a situation of jail malpractice going on. And I don't know if that's the right timing to do that, but the malpractice is there. I was an Uber driver for a while. I got to know people that were thrown in jail just trying to get home. And how do we address the malpractice that a cop will put somebody that's a foreigner, doesn't speak the language, in jail for no reason?
Yeah.
And they come out 2 months later trying to find their family. And as an Uber driver, I carried people into the homes. That's what our policemen need to be doing.
Yeah.
So I believe there is jail malpractice. But when is the time that we need to lift that up? And when are we going to address that, which we know is killing people?
How many of us are in here are parents? I'm a new parent myself. I have a 10-month-old kid. And one of the things that I keep relating in my mind is when your child does something wrong, you don't give them more money to keep doing the same thing wrong, right? If they crash their bike into their neighbor's house, you don't give them the keys to the car, right? That's what they're asking for. So, like, let's just get really clear about that and how we talk to other people about it. Anybody else that's maybe a person that hasn't, gotten a chance to talk, maybe introduce who you are and what you're finding from this conversation so far.
My name's Maya.
Please stand up.
My name is Maya. I'm a concerned citizen and a follower of change makers. And one of the things from her talk that struck me was the idea of a sheriff civilian oversight committee. So I don't know if something like this currently exists in Allen County. Probably not. How do you start one? And also in terms of power, she mentioned that initially it was basically toothless. They had no ability to make any kind of changes or institute any policies. I don't know, it sounded like that changed later on and became more of an oversight committee that actually had abilities to make policy changes. How do we skip that step of just having a feel-good committee and go right into action? Is that something we do at the commissioner level? Is that something we do in partnership with the sheriff? How do we get that going?
Yeah, good questions, Maya. Yes. And there's lots of pretty much barren structures in the county and the city. We saw one come up right after George Floyd's murder, right after all the protests, that they created a racial assessment team for the mayor, right? Yeah. Has anybody heard from them? Yeah. A lot of us have clergy or members that have been on that panel, and have we heard anything from them? No.
Have we actually been to them on what they're doing?
I'm sorry?
I'm the Reverend Frederica Lumpkin. I asked the question, have we approached them with a question as to what they're doing? How is it being done? How will we respond to something that we haven't even asked a question about yet?
Yes, amen. Reverend Loretta?
Reverend Frederica.
Yes.
Lumpkin.
Okay, so this is what I think one of our next steps has to be. Who's ever heard of a research action? Some of the people from Faith in Indiana have lots of, like a little bit of saliva in their mouth right now. Like, oh God, those things are so hard and often so unrewarding. So, you know, one of the things that can stop dead in the tracks, a multi-layered plan, because we know that the city has investment in this too. They want to get that downtown property opened up. So one of the things that can really quickly show people and also dispel the fact that we're somehow misinformed, that we're somehow just a bunch of people who can't really sit and wait. They're just jumping the gun. As many of you had seen, the commissioners referred to our group in the paper yesterday. One of the things that really quickly puts that myth to bed is to say, to organize a really calm, really professional sit-down conversation with a legislator where you control the space. You have the space table in your jurisdiction where you invite them, you put them in the middle of the room, and you set the questions. And they're not there to give a campaign speech. They're not there to talk about their platforms. They're there to tell you your responses and then to build relationship and to open up in vulnerability. So, you know, some of the things we might have to do is that. I love that that suggestion. Okay, one of the things that I found, and I was hoping Tia would respond to this because I know that you and your work at Inspiration House, I know that, you know, these people who run transitional homes oftentimes have no funding, have begun out of their own heart's desire, oftentimes out of their own story, to open up homes and literally just try to piece things together as they can. One of the things that I learned from Lynn is that we have, I mean, if we were to do a study, which I think always arms us, right? If we were to do a study and see where the economic fallout of over-incarceration is happening in Allen County, how much money we are losing.
Right, exactly.
Because of the ways that things are not working. Right. I found that would be a hugely powerful tool. That's power right there. To be able to organize that sense of idea, that sense of clarity. Because when other counties have done this, they're losing upwards of $350 million a year already from a broken system, right? So where cops don't have the criminal or the mental health record available to them on their pullover little laptops and their computers, so they don't know that the person that they're pulling over is, you know, suffering from PTSD or bipolar, and they utilize scare tactics on them that will re-traumatize them and make them overreact. Like, they don't have that. That's a gap, right? Yeah. Where else are the human lives being diminished because of our gaps in our processes? The jail didn't even keep track of racial outcome. They didn't even keep track of racial dynamics in the jail and how many people of race were there up until about 2017 when I started asking for it, and then they started creating it every week, right? They still don't have any assessment around that. They just aggregate it every week, and the commander has it on his desk, okay?
And I want to say this too. One of the things that I was hearing from the conversation is that she galvanized the community. And one of the things that I think that will help us in our formative stages here, and I'm glad to see Reverend Frederica here, because we've been there. You know, we've been there in the struggles over the jail. One of the things I think that will benefit us would be having the commissioners develop a diversified community committee to sit down with them and to receive the information or the different strategies from the community, because we know they're going to do something, but they're not telling us what they're going to do. I look at Indianapolis. Indianapolis, they came together as a community, and as a result of the community coming together, and because of them being open and looking at the logistics of their jail situation, they had people locked up in 2 different locations. And they needed to do something, but they came together, and as a result of that, they're spending $500 million. But if you look at that $500 million that they are spending, they are giving the community what they were looking for. They had to build a new court building, they had to build a new jail, and they put together an assessment center to make sure that those that are going to jail need to go to jail. If they don't, they provide services for them, mental health, drug counseling, and those kinds of things. But that didn't come until the community got together and said, you know what, we like to have an advisory committee to assist you in doing what is best for our community. And I always remember this. Abraham Lincoln, before he ever made a decision, he always considered one thing. Whatever decision that he made, he asked himself, would it be for the greater good, for the greater number? And in this situation, we're looking at what they're doing is only going to serve the greater good for the few. And we need to look at the greater good for the overall community.
Right. Amen.
Yes, an oversight committee, some type of advisory board, looking at the sheriff's department and the jail capacity and reviewing the situations that happen there, right? The current bodies that are formed to do this are usually manned by the former sheriffs or by like people who have a vested interest in keeping things the same, right? And one of the other things that I found was incredibly powerful is that she said they did a study, 60% of the people that were in the jail could be released into other avenues immediately, that we all know have better outcomes, right? Okay, so now that we're clear that there's some steps that we could take, I believe Delana and Alicia are going to walk us through the things that we need to be able to walk out of this room ready to do. Are we ready to take on some work?
Amen.
Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Amen. All right, let's do it, ladies.
Let's hear it from change makers. Delana, Thomas, and Alicia. You want the police department out?
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet everyone that we don't know. And hello to the ones that we do know. I'm just trying to take everyone in. Thank you guys for being here. I think that I probably, I'm just taking everyone in. I think as of this morning, I probably woke up at like 7 a.m. And for anyone who is not on my social media, I think that I was just afraid that my community would not support the movement. You know, because one thing about it, I know that it's important that if we're going to get anything done, we have to show up. It's really important that we show up. Audrey said that we were going to walk you through some steps. And step number 1, 2, and 3 is that we have to show up every time. So step number 1 is that we have to, you got show up, right? And I don't care if it's winter, summer, spring, we have to show up. And I see like some people who have campaigns going on right now, and I know that we get exhausted. You guys are probably exhausted, but what do you have to do? Show up. I don't care if you have volunteers. Those volunteers have to show up, you know. And so I think that I woke up this morning and, you know, sometimes, you know, our feet, right? Pastors, right? And, you know, you have to, it doesn't matter how tired you are, you have to still show up. And, you know, sometimes that is the hardest thing to do, but we still have to do it. And so I think that, Alicia, she knows my personality. And sometimes she just laughs at me. But she still knows that I'm going to show up. I might be complaining, right? I might be complaining when I do it, but I'm still going to show up. So I think that that's step number one. But I think, in all seriousness, we're going to continue. But I had to get that out of the way. But I am still taking in all of your faces because I really do appreciate you all. And I really appreciate the expert here because I think that really grounds us. Because without that, I'm going to take these off because they're probably foggy. And I don't think I can see through them. But, I think that really grounds us because without that information, and I think it's really important that we, across the country, that we share information. Right. Because without that, sometimes we're just like circling, and spinning. Right. So I really appreciate all that information. Alicia and I, as new organizers, sometimes we question ourselves, and people will make you do that. They really will. They'll say things that really make you question if you're doing things the right way. So, thanks, to Reverend Timothy. I think he kind of, helped us with that. So I really appreciate that. Alicia, I think that's close to my things. But Alicia, where's your paper? Step number 2. But the first thing that I wrote for the step, I believe that we need to set up meetings. That was the first thing that I believe that when we walk out of this door, that's what I felt. Yep. We need to set up meeting with the leaders of the county. I was thinking commissioners. Alicia and I, we went to a meeting recently, and I didn't know what I was walking into. Audrey probably knew, but Audrey couldn't make it through the door. I was really disappointed, but Alicia and I made it through the door, and we walked dead smack into 2 commissioners. And I was happy about it. So I sat there and I had to leave, but I said, I'm not walking out of here without speaking to the commissioners. And Audrey was texting us the entire way. And she said, go live. And I said, our phones are dying, but I think we went live. Yeah. Right? So I said, setting up meetings with, county commissioners, setting up meetings with all of those county leaders. Everyone, I think that we need to ask those direct questions. Someone, who was it? Christian Wolf. Ask those direct questions. Something that you said, Christian, was so important to me. You said, and this really, I think resonated with me because you said, do not say, I guess you said do not put it out there about the new jail, right? Because I believe that I asked a question. We had a question, basically, when is the new jail going to be built? So we need to rephrase that question, right? How would we rephrase that question? Anyone? How would we rephrase it?
How do we stop that new jail threat?
How are we going to de-incarcerate those who do not need to be in jail?
That's a long question.
Okay, I'll work on it.
How can that was a great question. I wouldn't say that to my students. So that was great. That was great. I would say that to them. That was great.
And now shorten that.
Yes. Yes. Great. What else? Anyone else?
How do we seize this opportunity to create justice?
Ooh. Great. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes. Anyone else?
What do we get by putting so many people in jail?
What do we? Yes. Great.
Where do we start our system of mass incarceration?
Ooh. Mm-hmm. She said that is nice. Anyone else? Anyone else? Was that the winner? Is that the best one? Because we're going to write this down. We're going to use these questions. Now, we actually go into meetings where we have to ask these questions, guys, so we need them, seriously. Anyone else?
I like the ending mass incarceration because it's specific. It's more, with all respect to Rabbi Meir, justice is broad, and I like the specificity of ending mass incarceration.
Okay.
It's specific. we're saying, we're projecting what we want, not
Okay.
what we don't want.
Okay.
And that speaking power of what we want
Okay.
is part of creating it, you know, as Christian was saying.
So we have that question. We have it on camera. All right. So that's what we're going to use. I love it.
Or simply, you know, how do we find alternatives to jail?
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my question.
What are we gonna, what are we gonna?
That
To
talks
build
about these
a new
community
jail.
members. Or
Is it necessary to build a new jail? Based on what Lynn said, whether you build a new jail or not, what are you gonna do with incarceration? It's gonna remain the same. So if you have a 700 bed jail and you build a 2,000 bed jail, what are you gonna do? You're gonna fill up
You
the
anticipate
2,000 bed jail.
That's right.
Yes.
Right.
So is building a new jail really necessary? Are there any alternatives
Yes.
to the existing
Another
property?
question might be, when are you guys going to conduct a study to look at the alternatives to incarceration? You know what I mean?
Where's that feasibility
This
study?
is taking control of the narrative.
Yes, that's right. And she made a good point about, do we have a university that may want to come in and help assist with doing this kind of study?
And the Notre Dame's Center for Social Concerns has offered students. The students have offered themselves. They've said, "Give us something that we want, you know, that we can study." So that's something I can connect with that.
Okay.
Awesome.
So we should do that
May I
immediately.
ask a
Okay.
question, please? My question is this. They've made a proposal to build a new jail. Have they presented their studies to the public that would help us understand why they want to make this proposal? If they have not, then that's something you need to.
Yeah, there is.
Because that
The feasibility
gives you,
study.
strategic information about where their mind is, where they want to go, and how they want to get there.
So there is a feasibility study that is available online. I think it's on the the commissioner's website. That actually does state why they think they need a new jail. What are the other alternatives that they looked at? It has, you know, how many beds they're proposing. They did their research on how the numbers are growing in the city as far as how many people are, you know, living in the city. It goes into detail about every part of that. And, as I actually spent almost a year in the jail, and was in prison for, a little over 2. I was pregnant when I went to jail, so I gave birth to my son in prison. And I was in this jail here in Allen County. And I can tell you right now that what they talk about, the inside of the jail and the inhumane conditions, is very, very true. I went in healthy and actually developed an infection because they took so long to give me undergarments, and I was pregnant. And it took them a long time to actually take me to the hospital. And they didn't take me to the hospital because I made up I said that I'm in pain. Like, I feel like I'm in extreme pain. And then when I got to the hospital, I told the truth just to get me to the hospital. But the actual conditions of the jail are horrible. It's disgusting. They don't listen to you. Nothing works. And so a lot of times when I hear, Jorge said earlier, the conditions in the working of the inside of the jail, it just doesn't, it's too old. It doesn't work. So I know that we need some kind of upgrade, right? But we don't want it in areas where they talk about the southeast side, and that was a rumor that we heard from an actual official. Those areas are already poverty stricken. So moving a jail into an area like that, where the people are already it's living in poverty, it's going to drive it down even further, right? And so, you know, I just wanted to put that in there. I have actual experience with many of the things that they talk about happen in the jail, and the treatment of the inmates. They treat you like animals. They really, really do. And I was, you know, I was when I was pregnant, I got to the point, this was my first pregnancy. And so when I felt any type of pain, I'm like, oh, am I in labor? You know, like, you know what I'm saying? And being in a cell at night with 2 other people, because one person's sleeping on the ground, the buttons don't work. You can't call out. And so we would have to literally bang on doors. Like I would say, hey, I'm in pain. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm in pain. And all the other women would start banging on the doors really hard. That would like catch their attention to where they would come down. Like, what's going on in here? But that took a long time. And so I started saying, I don't want to sleep in here where I can't reach anyone. And so they would put me in an observation cell, which would have lights on all night long. Right? And I slept in a boat, is what they call it. It looks like a plastic toddler bed, but bigger, that has nothing. It just literally slaps down on the ground. Some people just slept on mats, and the mats are this big. That's how thick they are. You feel like you're just laying on the metal. You don't get pillows, you know, or anything like that. So, I mean, I could tell you stories for days, but, you know, this section is supposed to be about moving forward and what's next. I think one of those steps would be to talk to people who have been inside the jail. Yeah. We need to hear the stories of what they've went through, hear the stories of, you know, how they've been treated, because that's going to be super important, because that's really what's going on. We need to know, you know, recently that was like 10 years ago when I was, you know, incarcerated. But we need to hear those stories. If we've never been through it, you need to feel like you've been through it.
Right. So it makes you so clear.
And you know, Alicia, one of the things I think that would be part of this advisory group to the jail is that back 42 years ago.
Well, I'm sorry, we have, our part only have a few seconds left, I'm sorry.
Right, well, you got some time left. We got some time left.
We have
We got some time left.
This is coming from Dr. Pressy, who said he wanted to get out of here by 4:30.
Yeah. my time is actually
we got
up.
the facility up till
We
5
do?
o'clock.
Yes, we do.
So we're good? Okay, as long as we're good.
I'm giving you leeway.
Okay.
But one of the things that we did 42 years ago, when we saw that the conditions in the jail was horrible, we got an injunction for the community to do a tour of the jail. If we're going to deal with the jail, then our committee need to go through and tour the conditions of the jail.
Unannounced.
Unannounced. But we need to get an opportunity to go through and tour the jail so that we can see for ourselves what the conditions are.
And one thing I want to say one other thing here, because we saw that video, right? If you were at Java's meeting, you saw the video of the outdoor recreational place. No. Okay. And so you saw the video, and if you go back and look, they probably have it live or something like that. But there's a video of an outdoor recreation center, and they're like, we haven't been able to use it because low staff or whatever, la la la. I was there 10 years ago, and we still didn't get it then. Right. We didn't get to go outside. We didn't get to see sunlight. We didn't get recreation. We literally walked in circles in a pod area that was probably from this second row to this wall. So we just walked the wall. Like, that was our recreation, and then we went back into the cells when they told us to. Another thing, they wash your... This is another thing that I don't think that very many people talk about this. When you work as what do you call it? Trustees. Okay, when you're able to work as trustees, the trustees do the laundry. They wash your clothes with the mop heads. What? Yeah, it's very true. They wash your clothes with the mop heads. So when I talk about infection from not having undergarments, because they're supposed to give them to you, right? But if you're indigent, you have no money, you have to write to the chaplain and ask them and tell them you're indigent. Writing to the chaplain is what they told me to do the first day. And it was like, probably 4 or 5 weeks before they gave me any. So I'm wearing the clothes that were washed with the mop heads with no undergarments or anything. So.
Ooh.
It seems clear that in these 45 days, they could be doing more than talking about a new jail. They could be talking about why there's moldy bread being served as the meals. I mean, like, there's things that seem pretty simple and basic and not nearly as expensive that need to be. So I want to know about the accountability, or what are they doing in these 45 days that are tangible?
And why aren't they doing it voluntarily?
Right.
Like humans?
Yeah.
And let me point out, at the Friday meeting, they talked like briefly about, we don't know when the location is going to be, but they didn't talk about the QCC contract, the healthcare provider contract. I watched the meeting and talked about that. They're not talking about the food contract. The commissioners are signing these contracts, and the predecessors have signed these contracts. And they're not talking about it. And I think one statement I saw from Nelson Peters was like, he's looking into the QCC contract. Like that was a couple weeks ago.
Right.
So I think, the lack of transparency is a major issue. And like Friday was like baby steps and the minimum amount of having like an actual discussion. The meeting just lasted 16 minutes on Friday morning. County Commissioners meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, if you can look it up online. 16 minutes, and like 8 minutes was the business, and like 8 minutes was this, small discussion. I mean, we need a robust discussion on these issues in the county.
Yeah.
Guys, I know there's probably lots more comments, but I really do feel like in order to help everybody get out of here on time, and in order for us to keep a clarity about what we're about, right? There's lots of stripes that are going to be enrolled in this fight. What's our biggest one? Besides showing up?
Set up meetings.
I mean, like, didn't we talk about how there needs to be community pressure in order for things to get done? And that can take the shape of an oversight committee, that can take the shape of an active organization. But the thing that builds that is lots of relationships, lots of conversations, lots of broad-based community development around this issue, right? So we have an idea as to how that can take shape.
Well, I'll say this. We love Facebook. So at any time, and we could think about it in our head, we can continue a conversation on Facebook Live, okay? And so maybe we'll think about like going live on Facebook and we can continue the conversation there, okay? So hit us up on Changemakers and we can like talk over there and ask our questions over there, okay? All right. So we'll continue, all right? So you're right, Audrey. So, but let's continue and we'll get you guys' questions on Facebook, all right? Okay. So we're going to continue because Audrey's going to like bite my head off in a second. So grow our coalition. This is what we have to continue with. So we need to grow our coalition, guys. We need more signatures, okay? We have a petition online. Did you guys all sign it? Okay, we need at least 500 signatures. I'm thinking 1,000. 1,000 signatures is easy for us. We said 500, but I'm really thinking 1,000 signatures, and I think that's really easy. So if we go to our churches, can we do that? If we go to our churches, even our jobs, we can go to our jobs. You guys are probably all a part of like groups. Are you a part of groups or, like your knitting clubs or like I like to knit, I like to go bowling and, I'm a part of book clubs, all of those, whatever clubs you're a part of, can you guys go and get signatures from them? Tell them about it. Like, we care about these things. Can you guys go and get signatures from all of them?
Articles on social media too. Look, I've been spamming those comments of every single jail post and putting that petition in there. Every single comment. I don't care if you are for it or against it. I'm posting every single comment.
Yeah, so at least 500 signatures. Okay, beyond that, we need to create our working strategy groups. Our next meeting is the week of May 9th. Help Not Handcuffs Assembly at Commissioners County Corrections. Late May, right? So our next meeting is May 9th. This is our Bitly.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I just wanted to say, because when we wrote this, we were thinking that they had until June 15th.
Oh, okay.
To respond. They don't. They have until May 15th.
Okay.
So, I mean, we have to get a sense from the room, right? I mean, our goals that are written on this paper are like what we had in mind. But people's energy, where are you? They have a meeting to sit down with that federal judge and tell him about their plans. And they might just be like, oh, we're going to build a shiny new jail. They might not. They might delay it because they know it's going to cause more and more oversight since we've all been watching them. But how do we escalate to where we can get a space created before the summer is finished, before the summer's even fully begun, where they have to talk with a coalition? I mean, that's my thinking. Where are people at on that?
Well, I guess my question is I know we're talking about building a new jail, not building a new jail. So my question would be, just listening to you talk about the jail facility, it sounds like we need a new jail. No, I don't want any more people in the new jail, more than what we already have, obviously, and I want that to go down. But what do we do? Because if the facility is that bad, then something needs to happen, along with reducing the number of people and getting people out who have done small crimes, getting them through rehabilitation. But how do we get them to a place where they can have a place where they can walk around, or bedding that's suitable, or food that's suitable, where they're not washing your clothes with my kids? So where do we get to that point?
And I've kind of.
We don't want to get there. These are bad people. They don't deserve to be treated nice. They have to pay back
that discussion with her
for what they did. Fort Wayne, I think, more than the average, has an invisible underlying foundational philosophy that is punitive.
Yep.
And it's not restorative. And I think that's going to be a real big obstacle for us. Some people, if you explain it to them, you can win them over. I think there's a lot there to win them over towards restorative justice rather than punitive justice. But there are a lot of people that are dead set on the morality of punishment.
I mean, just to give a little credence to what Christian, is it Christian?
Yes.
So our sheriff's on his way out, right? Hopefully by the end of this year. He'll definitely be replaced, but probably with his own protege, sadly. But our sheriff went to, in 2016, his own border school, hosted by people who called all of the people on the coming in from Mexico such and such kinds of names, talked about Taliban coming in from the Afghan countries. There's things that have been noted about our county officials that have led us to believe that nice, reasonable conversation doesn't necessarily get us there. However, we do have to be reasonable and measured, because they need help. They need a coalition. They need people who can bring together the players that they don't have. Timothy, I see you pacing back there. I'm wondering if you can maybe tell us from your experience in LA, when things got started with the coalition, was it important that it came out clearly as an oppositional group and started building a community narrative that way? Or did you guys take steps around, let's do a tour, let's have how did you immediately have to brand yourself in order to create momentum and be able to...
But her question was, do we need a new jail? So, are we answering her question?
I mean, you know what? Maybe we do. Maybe we need a new facility.
You know what? I've kind of wrestled.
Maybe we need our facility to be overhauled.
Can we? Because she's the only person who has been in the jail. Can we let Alicia kind of give some information on that?
I've been there.
This is how I feel. I've wrestled with this, right? I've literally wrestled with this thought in my head because I know how it is, and I know, and I'm trying to make it make sense, right? I don't want a new jail that's $350 million that can more people, but could we get a new jail that had the same amount of beds right, in the same like general area, because one of the things
with a different setup,
said,
right?
Yeah, with a different setup,
Yeah.
because they can't build onto the new jail, or the jail as it stands now. That's why they built out the last time they built. So one of the things Mitch McKinney said is it's literally sitting, like they put it in a terrible spot. The river's right there. There's water. Like if you dig deep, it's water, right? And so, like I was thinking, like how can we, like not compromise, because I'll never compromise, right. But you know, maybe a jail of the same size, located downtown and just central
with the
area
programs,
where,
you know, that's
exactly,
necessary.
because we need these programs.
Yeah, exactly.
We need programs for, you know, mental health, drug addiction. Yes. And there's people in there who are non-violent or on misdemeanors. My father was locked up after the protest, and his charge was speaking too loud. They said that he was just talking too loud, and he went back and forth. Didn't have the money to get a lawyer. A lot of lawyers weren't calling him back because they didn't agree with what was happening at the protest anyway. And so he went back and forth and ended up paying out of the pocket to do. The outcome was finally, and this just happened like 6 months ago. The outcome of his misdemeanor for talking too loud was house arrest that he did for 30 days, lost a job, and paid, I think it was like $1,200 for 1 month of house arrest. So, you know, we need programs. That's the biggest problem we have. We don't have programs with the capacity to handle all the mental health issues and all of the people addicted to drugs that are in the jail right now. And so maybe we do need a new jail, but something with more services to help the community. But we don't want it in our neighborhoods as well. And not to say that criminals are bad and all people that go to the jail are bad. No, it's just that something like this should be in the center of downtown, or you know, close to the courts, and not in our neighborhoods. Because if you're going to try and dump it somewhere, they're going to try and dump it on us. So we have to be proactive in saying we don't want it, even though they haven't supposedly said where it's going to go, or that it is going to go on the southeast side. We're going to say before they make that decision, or you know, that we don't want it, just to let you know, you know. So I think maybe it is a good idea to get a new jail, because they're living inhumanely, as you know, right now.
Reverend Timothy.
There's a young lady that has a hand up.
Well, she has had it for a long time. He's an expert.
I'm just mindful of the time and what we said about what we agreed to and wrapping up. And that in terms of, there's a lot of different perspectives. This is, again, an ongoing thing, and we're going to have to get clarity and see of where the county's planning and where is our energy. But at the basic minimum, if you've not signed the petition, you need to sign it today and invite others. At least 500. Let's aim for 1,000. There's going to surely be a press conference at some point that will be announced. And if you're able to come to that, that would be awesome. And when there are county commission events, when they're making those decisions, we need to show up. We need to be there. We need to put pressure. We're forcing them to have to now talk about this almost on a weekly basis. And if we have people show up, that will force their hand. It doesn't take thousands of people. It takes dozens of people. And guess what? We have dozens of people.
That's right.
And not everyone has to be there, but that is what we need to do.
Preach, Reverend Timothy.
Do those 3 things, that's going to help us get a lot closer to that. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today, for taking the time on this Saturday, because you could do something fun, and you should do something fun also.
This is fun.
You do fun.
That's right.
Justice, and those things go together. But I'm so glad that you came here today, and I look forward to seeing your name on that petition.
Yes.
I look forward to seeing you at a press conference. I look forward to seeing you at the county commission, and let them know what needs to be done, and that we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere, and we're here, and they're going to hear us.
That's
Amen?
right. Yes.
Blessings. Good luck.
Thank you.
Here's a proposal for those steps for the May 9th day, for the May 9th week. We're thinking of getting together on a Thursday night. So that would be, that would be the 12th. Then we're hoping to go to the county commission's meeting that following morning, which is on the 13th. As we know, they then respond to the ACLU by the 15th. So they might be sharing their little outcomes and their little hopes that day. How many people want to show up with power on May 13th and 2 Fridays from now?
Guys, when we all walk in those meetings, let me tell you the feeling of gratification that we get. Yep. The looks on their faces are like, oh my. They don't expect us to come to those meetings because they feel like they have the power. They feel like only they belong in those meetings. So when we walk in, yes, when we actually walk in, they're like, you kind of people don't belong in these meetings. Yeah, they're like, literally, that's it. It's like, you kind of people don't belong in these meetings. So when we walk in, it's like, yeah, we're here.
So that's at 10 a.m. on Friday the 13th. So let's
you
get
feel
our
good.
10 a.m. Friday the 13th.
Feels good.
And we're going to go ahead and just say that our next meeting, since we need a little bit more planning time before then than a Thursday, that's probably wise. How about we do Tuesday the 12th for our next planning meeting? I'm sorry, Tuesday the 10th.
Can we get a location so everyone knows for sure? Location of the meeting.
Reverend Karen, could that be at Destiny Life Center?
Yes.
Destiny Life Center on Warsaw. We'll say 6 to 8:30 p.m.
And on that day, I'm going to set up a pop tent. We've got about 3 or 4 or 5 of them. I don't know how many we got out of them. Where I'm going to be taking petitions because everybody in my neighborhood is a part of this. So we serve a community where people are highly incarcerated, highly marginalized in this area. So I've got a tent. I'm going to set that up and start getting signatures. We got to have 1,000 signatures. We can't
by the 13th. Yeah,
Go to your neighbors. Walk your neighborhood.
And walk your neighborhood. So let's get that going.
Yes,
that's something everyone can do.
Everyone can do that, and if you
I guarantee you,
could,
the whole South Side would sign that thing.
I know.
if you could, it would be great to just shoot us a text or an email or go onto the Facebook page and say, here's my plan. I'm going to talk to such and such on such and such days. I'm going to try to get 25 signatures by the 6th. So we're going to try to get all of our signatures together a week from yesterday, the 6th. We're going to then meet on Tuesday, 6 to 8:30 at 3601 Warsaw Street, Destiny Life Center. And then we're going to go show up with power on at 10 a.m. on Friday the 13th at Citizen Square. Sound like a plan? Thank you, everybody. Yes.
Thanks, guys.
And the Poor People's Campaign got a song that says, the county is trying to hurt our community, and they're trying to do it for a long time, but guess what? We're not going to be silent anymore. All right.